Hi there, welcome to Urbinary, the podcast cataloging the everyday and extraordinary in the city.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Urbinary. I'm Giulia and today I'm joined by Abdallah, Dafni and Danila, the brilliant mind behind the recent AESOP Young Academics Conference which was hosted at Politecnico di Milano. The Young Academic Networks provide a platform through which the academic leaders of tomorrow, so young researchers, can share ideas in an open and inclusive environment, challenging and supporting one another.
Urbinary.
As mentioned, I'm here with Abdallah, Dafni and Danila, who were the conference coordinators as member of the local organizing committee of the AESOP Young Academic Conference that was held in March at Politecnico di Milano. We want to present them to our listeners, and all of them are PhD candidates at Politecnico di Milano in the PhD course in Urban Planning, Design and Policy, and they all have different interests within the subject. Abdallah, who we actually have the pleasure to host in our first season, is from Lebanon, and he has a background in architecture and a master's degree in urban planning, design and policy. He's currently delving into the environmental sustainability of infrastructure projects linked to mega events like the Olympic Games. Dafni was born in Greece and has her bachelor degree in architecture in Paris before pursuing a master's degree at Politecnico di Milano. Her research interests lie in exploring the interplay between the human body and the environment through practices of active mobility and slow travel. Her PhD research investigates how our environmental perception and affective experience of landscape are influenced by the speed and mood which we move. Danila was born and raised in Napoli, and she's an architect formed between Europe and South America with a background in landscape architecture and expertise in historical context, both cities and landscape. She's passionate about the relational and cognitive dimension of places. Her research brings concept of place identity and place attachment to urban planning. She's exploring whether and how the emotional bonds between people and places can affect the development of a place and its environment. So today with them we'll delve into the conference discussion, and I'm very happy that you all are here with me today.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, thank you, Giulia.
Thank you.
Urbinary.
So as a first question, I'd like to understand from you how was organizing a conference. Of course, I'm not mean just understanding in terms of practical element, but also how was for you as young academics being the leader of this organization.
Who starts? Tough question.
I think it was a very novel experience for us because it involved both working on the content and on the logistics part. So from one hand, we had to think about a theme and then the diverse tracks, work on inviting guests and participants, and then figuring out the logistics such as the budget, the catering, the venues and all that stuff. I think it was quite intense and time-consuming and energy-consuming, but I think it was really useful for us as professionals and on a personal level as well.
I totally agree with you, Daphne. It was a great experience also for me. I personally learned a lot, both learned and gained at the same time. And despite the demanding year, as you were mentioning, we managed to assemble a great team of organizers, from which also we include Giulia was inside the team, that she's our host today. Also, it's worth noting that none of us has prior experience, as you were saying, so everything was very new for all of us. But despite that, we delivered an outcome that we can be proud of, but also our department and our colleagues.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think that was a long process, sometimes time-consuming, but at the end, I think the most rewarding part was what came out, and also in terms of social relationships, like between us, between the group. And I think that the most interesting part was to transforming the draft idea into a project and to leading it all together, like 10 members, 12 members probably. And then the outcome, the response from the participants was great. So I think we can consider ourselves happy about the result.
Okay, so even what it was tough, it was very insightful for all of you. So for starting the discussion, I want to start from the title, which also, as a Urbani team, we think it encapsulates many discussions in today urban planning practices. And the conference was titled Bridging Gaps, Urban Planning for Coexistence. And we want to discuss with you your understanding of this title and what kind of discussion this title represents.
So basically the title and the 5 tracks emerged directly from the reflections we engaged in during the initial preparation phase for the conference. As we were brainstorming, the 3 of us began by posing the fundamental question: what is the overarching purpose of this conference? Like, this is, I think, was very crucial for us since the beginning. Our reflections led us to identify significant gaps within academic discourse that, although apparent, had largely been overlooked. So by addressing these gaps, we aim to catalyze broader and more ambitious discourse both within academia and in broader spheres. Actually, we envisioned this conference as merely the beginning of a larger, richer conversation that extends beyond traditional academic boundaries. And in fact, here we are today discussing these topics in a podcast, not a very traditional academic format, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And if I can add some things, I would like to retake some words that you both, Giulia and Abdallah, mentioning that are, for example, today, urban planning and gaps. And actually, I think that the process of drafting the conference and that lead to the title push us to observe, to think about the moment, the today's situation that we were living in. And I think it's important also to mention that 1 year before, when we start working on the conference, in those days, I think that the very young students start to move the tent in Piazza Leonardo in support of the student situation. And I would like to mention also the PhD situation, that maybe it's even worse concerning the rent crisis. Or also, I think that in the same days we were facing the problem of the flood in Milan, where we lost hundreds of trees. And also there was the Ukraine, and probably also we started with the, not started, but there was an increase on the conflicts in the Middle East. So we were in the middle of this very, not turbulent, very tormentous moment, and we thought that was crucial and was also key to have a moment to create a discussion or to create an observation point. And to do it in Milan, for us, was a key position, as Milan is a city that is constantly in this process of changing, ever moving, but also losing its identity. So it was interesting for us to address, first of all, probably to recognize the gaps, and then to try to explore it, and maybe find some answer. And that's why I think the topic of coexistence emerged. Why we were questioning our position. For us was also very important to think about ourselves as young thinkers, young scholars, and to put ourselves into the conference. That's why we try to open up this discussion through, for example, the site visits or the workshops. And yeah.
Yeah, I agree with both of you, because I think that the choice of the main subject, which of course was, a process. It took us, I don't know, probably a couple of months to arrive, let's say, to a final result. But I think it's part of a more overarching reflection on and our response to phenomena of fragmentation in space and society today, in general, so like beyond urban planning. And I think that's what the word coexistence represents, because as we found out later on when we started developing the tracks, the word coexistence can adapt and can concern practically everything. So we treated subjects that have to do with the coexistence between humans, among humans, then with humans and the rest of the species, either natural or animal, the environment, humans as part of the environment, then coexistence between urban and non-urban or rural places, trying to bridge the divide between them and explore in-between spaces, literally and metaphorically. And then finally, coexistence between academia, practice, and society in terms of communication and seeking to establish coexistence through a common understanding. So I think that all those themes, let's say, are quite versatile. They could be tackled by other disciplines as well. And I think the fact that we managed to take a subject that could be quite general and adapt it into our expertise, let's say, was a very nice challenge for us and was also very rewarding.
Yeah, I think that being there, I can say that it was very nice, the fact that you were able to let's say broader the discussion, because the title it's very broad, but at the end you were able to manage all the very single and very specific element, and they were organized in a very nice and understandable way, which is something probably very difficult to do, because it's not easy to have very big discussion and then be able to manage.
Also, if I can add something to what Dafni and Danila were saying before, also the topics that we discussed during the conference have nothing are not very much related to our topic of research, and that was challenging at the same time, but also very interesting, and also very it was important to expand a little bit our horizons and see what's as we said before, what are the gaps within this discourse, academic discourse nowadays, and also beyond that.
I think that it also reflects our approach to the conference, as yes, we are the coordinators, but also our approach was based on, okay, what can we bring home in meaning of what can we explore more. That was also a platform, let's say, to explore for us, a chance to explore, and it was interesting in my opinion, this process of open exploring, not being afraid of what we already said, but going a little bit more forward.
Totally.
I think that another interesting element, which of course is part of the young academic networks aim, is that the conference audience were mainly young researcher, PhD, postdocs, so very young voices and thinkers, as Danila also highlighted before. And I have to say that as being a very new to this world, as I just started my PhD, I have already noticed that sometimes it's very difficult to have a place where we can express our ideas and be taken into consideration, because we found maybe the place, but then we don't find people taking us in consideration. So what I felt in this conference is that I was welcome, and I felt I have a place where to share my ideas and express my opinions. So I'm curious to understand also from your side if you believe this is an interesting and also important element of the conference, and more general, the importance of having places where we as young academics can have a place to discuss.
Absolutely, yes. First reaction, yes. Probably, I was thinking that we should mention also that me and Dafni, for example, we are from the same cycle, and we were born during COVID. So I think that what affected most our very first years was the lack of possibility to meet. She was in Greece, I was in Napoli, so it also slowed down the process of research that for me was very new. I was very outside of the world of research and academia. So of course I had many troubles. I didn't feel very comfortable. And in that moment, I would very appreciate to have an exchange with my colleagues and then also friends. And so probably one of the aim of the conference was to do it in presence, and it's like la presenza. It's nice. It's like the physical presence in a space, which of course is like cutting, it's bridging the distances between us. And I think this was one of the aim, one of the original goal, because we experienced the difficulties of being alone within the research path, within the academia. And yes, I think that was a very important point for us to do it in presence and to meet.
I really agree with you, and I love this idea that presence is bridging, the distances and the gaps. And it's true that we really sought to do everything in presence. We had requests for remote participants, but we thought that since it's a small conference, very precise in addressing and involving young people early on their career, I think was really important. Exactly this attempt to create a safe space for young academics and early career researchers to come together and especially, let's say, to present their work within this safe space, to receive constructive feedback, but without, having this feeling of being judged as we get like in bigger conferences with more experienced people that are involved and present there. So I think that's the main aspect of this kind of this Young Academics Conference, and in general of any kind of attempt that seeks to give space and to give voice to young researchers as us is exactly this. That it's a great way to start being inserted into academia and to this world, and to start networking and to start measuring ourselves both professionally and personally within a wider global framework, international as well, but with having this sort of security of being among equals somehow
within a community.
Yeah.
No, I think you both touched on aspects that are very important, and also that first when Giulia asked her question, I already had them like on my points. So the first one is about safe space to discuss the research, especially like when we are young academics and we don't have that much of experience also of findings. It's very important to discuss them in a very safe space without also being overwhelmed by the presence of academics who are further along in their careers. So this is the first aspect I wanted to touch base on. The second one also about being present physically. This was very important, and also at the same time we were very lucky because we were a very diverse group, like from both parts, from the part of the local organizing committee and also from the part of the conference attendees.
And also track chairs.
Yeah.
And
So as you mentioned before, like we come from 3 different countries. Our local organizing committee was like this morning I was doing the count. We were 13 in the local organizing committee from 9 countries. So this is a lot. And also during the conference, we welcomed people from Europe, America, China, the Middle East, and Africa. So I during those years, like I am in my 3rd year, Dafni and Danila are on their 4th. We attended conferences, but I think this is the most diverse in terms of backgrounds, especially for a very restricted number of participants. The third aspect I wanted to touch base on was venues and discussion spaces. So Politecnico provided an excellent platform for us to exchange our ideas. But I think also one aspect that was very important was afternoon site visits that we did on the first day that provided a crucial moment for all of us to meet and to discuss and also to understand the context of the city. It was a great break ice, I think. And also for the participants that came from outside Milan and also from outside Italy, they got a chance to understand the context where they will discuss the city inside.
If I can add something, I just want to say that one of our purposes was to diversify the content of the conference as much as possible, so not limited to parallel sessions, which are of course interesting, but our focus at the time, every time at one participant, we tried to create more spaces for participants to come together and interact with us as a local organizing committee, with track chairs, with guests, so like through round tables and site visits. I think it was during those moments especially, and through the workshops, that we really saw how, the impact of the conference on people, and bringing people together, and on creating exactly this bridge, this safe space of coming together.
And I think the round tables did their work, like, because we didn't want the participants that come present their work, listen to the feedback, don't listen to the other, and go enjoy the city. But we wanted them to enjoy the city, but at the same time we wanted to foster a dialogue, and this is why the joint roundtables that we did between the tracks were very crucial to do that, and they did a great work, I think.
I think it was a very successful way, because I also noticed that when I listened to some of the track I've been following, I noticed that someone was recalling or something from the site visit or something from the keynote speech, because the roundtable was after it. But I think it was also a good moment for them to bring something that they experience in that days to their personal research or experience. And so I think
I think that one of the aim was to make this conference as active as possible, in meaning that not only having the possibility of presenting your contribution, but experiencing the conferences. So the dialogue with the others, also going outside of the university, exploring the city, exactly in the meaning of being with your feet in the ground, in the research that you are carrying on sometimes. And that's one of the aim. And we try to also transform our, let's say, conceptual, our idea, our purposes of the conference into the program. That's why, for example, every part of the conference has a specific aim with an expected outcome. And probably that's why we are talking today about the outcomes, because I think that it works out. Also because maybe we should point out that considering AESOP organization is not usual, right, to have the round table. For example, last year there were no round tables, but I think that for us was one of the most vibrant moments of the conference, especially because there's these horizontal, also no spatial barriers between who is speaking, from where he's speaking to whom he's speaking. And that's it.
So as a final question, I would like to ask you, what do you bring home from this conference? But I would like to understand, what do you bring home both personally, so for your future career and in general as a person, but also in terms of themes and topic we should reflect on. So what has emerged as phenomenon, issues regarding urban planning, cities, environment that we should consider in our discussions?
So thank you for the question. I will start from the second one maybe, and after move on to the first one. I will recall also the round table too. Personally, I wasn't able to attend all the round tables since we were involved also in the organizing, but in the second round table, a very important aspect emerged, let's say, and it was identified since the beginning, but it was also stimulated during the discussion. It was the gap between theory and practice, and I recall one of the discussants saying urban planners, and also especially the researchers in the field of urban planners, they have their own tools, and they are important tools that they can use to attain their objectives. And we must know, we must not play the role of the victims whenever we face challenging when interacting with actors outside of academic settings. So I think this was very crucial for me and impacted me as a statement from the discussant. I don't know, Daphne, if you want to attend.
Yeah, I because I really agree with you, and I had exactly the same thoughts regarding to this question. I remember that statement actually, which was really, like a hint for everyone in the room, just like to get down to earth and to do things. I think one thing that, yeah, of course, it was a reflection that we had at the beginning, but we somehow underlined through the conference, and particularly track 3, in which I was involved, and the roundtable, is that we are, as researchers, and I think we will continue to be facing a challenge, which is the fact that academia and research are increasingly becoming more and more specialized and isolated. So I think we need to continuously address our role as planners, as researchers, as designers in society, and ensure communication and inclusivity and justice, let's say. So I think that the key for doing this is exactly knowing our role, knowing our tools, knowing our position and our potential, and actually having a position, I think, is the starting point.
I also agree with you, and I love these words that you used, like for example, alignment or position, because I think that alignment is crucial to move forward some directions. And for me, it was a great experience. I think that I had after the conference, my luggage, I had the luggage very heavy, and it's difficult to choose to pick up some topics, some question that emerged. But for example, concerning I'm thinking about my track 5, and one of the key issues that arise was the difficulties of dealing with the invisible, how urban planning can be more prepared, how urban planning can make visible things that are intangible but has very heavy effects on the territories. And somehow I think that every discussion and also the variety of the contributions that were presented were showing us many approaches, ideas, perspectives that were showing us actually that we should believe, we should put more creativity, and we should believe more in our intuitions. So I don't know how exactly to divide the personal and the professional lessons that I learned from the conference, because for me was mixed. And I don't know if you guys want to add something.
I agree to that, because we can look at the conference again, both in terms of content and in terms of our personal experience as organizers, as also participants, because we were there, we participated, we followed discussions without being actively involved. I think for me, like on a personal level, we already talked about this, but I think it was really important to be with people, because the PhD can be a very lonely process, and I think that it gave us a great opportunity of coexisting. The conference was all about coexistence, like also literally, not just in terms of subject and of let's say seeking balance and trying to dissolve hierarchies. I think that, yeah, for me, that was the most important lesson, let's say, that we managed to do something without, looking for a particular outcome or trying to get something home professionally. That was not the initial goal. The goal was just to, coexist and share insights and knowledge and experiences in a safe space, as I said previously.
Learning how does it mean to coexist.
Yeah.
And I can add that, I believe that as you also pass the process of being new in the PhD, sometimes it's also a bit scary when you relate with older PhD, because you always feel like you are not at the same point of them. But something that I noticed, but all my colleagues that are started with me, is that we felt also welcome from you, not just from you three, but also all the other PhD that work on the conference. And I think it was important both for understanding that we are in a context where we can share and we can coexist, and also that we are in a place where we should discuss our ideas, and so we should feel at the same place. So I think that also for me personally, it was very helpful because it made me understand that I am in a right place where I can express and share with my colleagues. I want to thank you for organizing the conference and also for being with me today. We will meet again because you also was a track coordinator, so we will have a sort of introductory episode to the tracks. So yeah, just thank you.
Thank you, Giulia.
Thank you very much.
Urbinary.
Before concluding, I'd like to say a few words about the organization of this season. As the conference was divided into 5 tracks, we decided to have an introductory episode for each track. So in this episode, we will highlight the main aims of the track together with the track coordinators. And we will also include some recordings from the keynote speeches and roundtables discussion to provide further insights. Additionally, we interviewed 2 participants from each track about their research. And for our listeners, stay tuned for our next episode, in which we will introduce track 1 of the conference that was titled Looking Towards a Sustainable Urban Future Transition and Challenges. We will be joined by Azef, who was the track coordinators, together with Chen Li. Join us for an interactive recap as we delve into and comment on the topics they cover. Urbinary is produced in collaboration with Poliradio, the official radio channel at Politecnico di Milano.
Urbinary, the podcast cataloging the everyday and extraordinary in the city.